Hi, welcome to the unofficial Icebox podcast. I am your host, Moose, aka Marty, aka Young Canada. I'm here with not Keith Crosby, our last co-host. I'm actually here with my other roommate, resident sleepy boy, Andrew Crush. Last podcast we talked about just some goofy stuff. We mentioned you a few times, just because we did a bit. Because you were on the first podcast, you were under the blanket the whole time. You were there. You just didn't wake up while we were doing the podcast. So excited to have you awake on the podcast. Hopefully, we're not sleeping midway through it, but I'm super excited that you're here.
Yeah, just super pumped to be here. They actually. I hate you so much. They actually call me Naps. Where I'm from. Yeah. I mean, every chair could be a nap chair, but this is the nap chair that I'm in.
Yeah.
We've got the captain chair, where Moose likes to steer our TV guide channels, if you will. And this is the Naps chair. AKA mine. So glad to be awake, glad to have a voice to spread to the people, you know. I feel like this is content the world needs to hear. People need this message. So
people need the message of what Pop-Tarts are good, what Pop-Tarts aren't. As we talked about last podcast, we also talked specifically about the decorations around our house, and I mentioned the decorations that you have gotten in the house. Most noticeably, the fan favorite of all of the roommates, I would say. Second, it's a close second to the thick milkshake sign, but I would definitely say that the Live, Laugh, Love sign that we have in the apartment now, that was a steal. That was definitely a steal. So going forward, we have 3 rules on this podcast. You gotta live, you gotta laugh, and you gotta love. So definitely
appreciate that, brother.
Amen to that, brother. But yeah, real quick plug. I'm unsure as if they have been sold, but we are gauging if we ever do merch on the podcast by Keith Crosby if he sells all of his hats. So follow Keith.Crosby on Instagram. You might have been led to the podcast from that Instagram, but just hit him up, ask for him. I'm not sure how much he's doing, or because this is the second episode, I don't know if they're all gone, but more than happy to still plug his merch.
As the Arizona Lottery says, you don't know if you don't play. So go follow Keith Crosby and find out if you can get some merch.
Yes,
because you don't know if you don't try.
That's true.
And live, laugh, love.
Is that seriously the motto of the Arizona Lottery?
It is. You can't win if you don't play. That is the Arizona Lottery motto. It's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, which is a quote from Michael Scott. Yes. Who definitely stole that from Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky.
Our lizard is named after. Shout out to Gretz, my boy.
Shout out to Wayne Gretzky.
The great one. Young Gretz. No regrets?
Yeah, we Dude, no. We can't do the word association thing this early on. This is a bit that you and me constantly do. We will just yell across the apartment. We'll say a word, and then the other person will associate something with that word. Sometimes
takes us down a staircase of love.
It is. Dude, you're on a tangent. Okay.
If you're looking for serious content, but you ain't getting nothing serious out of this guy tonight. Just seriously funny.
Seriously funny, and that's
looking.
That.
Of course.
Oh my gosh! No, I'm happy that I got this energy.
Das Boot.
For those of you on. Well, actually, there is no
great visual.
Yeah, there is no visual element to the podcast this go around.
It's like a loot.
But Andrew has one of my Virgil cream sodas, and he has
shout out to Verge.
Yeah, shout out to Verge. But he is drinking it out of his shoe. The bottle is in his shoe. It is not like a shoey or anything. It is just Oh,
Say I won't.
That is horrible. Those are such nice shoes too.
They are.
Which let's talk about that for a second. Let's have that be the first segment in the podcast. Whenever we began the move-in process, me and Keeve moved in within like the first and second day of like the move-in process fully starting. The thing that you had moved in the first, I want to say, 2 weeks were boxes of shoes.
That is correct.
Before your bed, cabinets, any of your living things.
Cabinets.
Yeah, you have 2 cabinets.
Oh, dressers.
Or dressers.
Yes.
Dressers.
Cabinets belong in the kitchen.
That's true. Okay.
You know what else belongs in the kitchen?
What? Please don't.
Sandwiches.
Sandwiches, yes.
Yes. Sandwiches.
Good catch. Good
sandwiches.
We
love sandwiches.
love sandwiches. This is going to be such a chaotic podcast.
Yeah. Cabinets.
The first thing that you would move
Secretary of Treasury.
Dude. Okay, I'm getting through this. The first thing that you had moved in were buckets upon buckets of shoes.
Duffel bags.
And buckets.
Yes, duffel bags of shoes, boxes of shoes, bins of shoes. There's actually still more in my truck. I actually haven't fully unloaded everything that I have. My truck is actually still filled with stuff.
And we're past a month and a half of being moved in.
Maybe that's true. That could be correct.
Maybe.
You know, life gets busy when you just abide by those 3 rules, which is live, laugh, love.
Yes.
That can
You're too busy laughing.
Yeah,
you're too busy loving.
One
and
week
you're too busy living.
and you never know what the week's gonna do. You know, you might have a couple of days of laughing, and then your couple of days are living, and then you're loving the rest of the time because everybody needs some love. You know.
Everybody. Yeah. But so you are. Is it fair to say you're a shoe guy? With that being the case, is it fair?
I believe that would be a fair assessment. I do love shoes. I love fashion. I love streetwear. Shout out to the other podcast out there that is Mini Streetwear, co-hosted by the Radiant Valley Boys over there, Carson Cooper and Theo Ryan.
Oh, Theo Ryan.
If you love streetwear, it's a little plug for them. It's cool. They talk ministry, they talk streetwear, all the cool fun stuff. So check them out.
Theo Ryan, I believe I saw him at what is it called?
Fine Arts.
Fine Arts, yes. He stopped me and was like, "Hey man, I heard about all the good things that are going on," and I was like, "Oh, what are those?" Like I was just like, "Oh, really?" And he was just like, "Hey man, if you ever like need anything, hit me up. Like I'm more than happy to help." And I thought that was super cool. So yes, definitely shout out to Theo Ryan. Theo Ryan's awesome. So back on the subject of you being kind of a fashion guy, shoe guy, which you're somebody I definitely look up to when it comes to fashion. Have I taken any of what you've said to you're fixing your sock? Have I taken anything you've said, or after living with you for a month and a half, have I taken any of your fashion under consideration? No, I haven't, just because I am not a fashion guy. I am totally okay with saying that. I want to be dressed for success, but I'm not. So with you being a fashion guy, you being big into shoes especially, what is one thing that you own shoe-wise, specifically, that you would consider like your best own? Like, because I know a few things that you own that I would definitely point out immediately.
Ooh, so I would say, if you would call it the holy grail, if you will, of the shoes that I own, is actually a pair that I have not worn. That I still have. They are in a box. They are in the original box, actually. Haven't even unboxed it from the delivery box.
That's kind of insane.
And it is a pair of Yeezys. They are the Yeezy Breads. They were just re-released. I think it was either this year or late last year. And I happened to get fortunate enough to hit on them on the Adidas app. which was great. Have not worn them, not
That's
once.
so insane to me.
But do plan on probably busting them out over the summertime. Is the goal. But I would say that that's probably the best pair of shoes that I have. Closely followed by a plethora of other Yeezys. But newest purchase would be my Post Malone Crocs. Dual comfort Crocs. New to the Croc game. Croc boys, stand up, you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
But yeah, just getting down, not getting down with the Gators, just down with the Crocs. You
Definitely.
know? Just didn't know comfort until I put those on.
100%.
Like, people knock them. I was one of them. Like, I know there's people that are listening to this. They're like, dude, Crocs are ugly. Like, you wear clogs and you're a guy and you're 30. Like, buddy, just put your foot in it. Just tell me how that feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever been hugged by your mom when you're sad? That's what's happening to your foot right now.
I couldn't have worded that better. With that being said, about like the Crocs lifestyle, I'll be one of the first people to agree. I was not a fan of the Crocs game. And then I move in, we're talking, and one of the first questions you asked was, what's your shoe size, buddy? And my response was 13. And you looked at me with eyebrows raised and was like, oh, okay. I do have big clown feet. And the next thing...
I heard you were a rodeo clown. Is that correct?
It was a one-time thing, and I'd love to get more deep into that. But I end up walking out, and you go, hey, man, I kind of got you something. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, honestly, whenever you first had said that, I was expecting, like, one of our goofier gifts, like the world title belt that we have, which is for the apartment. I also thought of just... you got me a belt buckle when we moved in, which I still need to get a belt for that specifically, just so I can wear it and use it specifically.
So you can be Moose, of course.
It is a moose belt buckle, and it is not like a belt buckle with a moose on it. It is just the head of a moose as a belt buckle, and I think that's super awesome and cool. I just need to get a belt to use it. But you ended up busting out, oh, hey, here's these Drew
House
Bieber collabed Crocs that are lavender, and they're yours. And I, because of who I am, was immediately like, I don't think I want those, because that's like a lot of money and I don't want you to spend money on me. And he goes, too late, already ordered, and they're in your size, so I can't wear them. So I was a little taken aback by that, because again, not a fashion guy, not a shoe guy. I do like getting shoes, but I never know what shoes are good. I buy shoes on what they have in my size. But yeah, that was super awesome and cool of you. So I wanted to shout you out for that awesome purchase.
Yeah, man. Just worked out that way, was trying to hit on the Crocs website for my size, and by the time I got on the website, they were sold out. And a little birdie in my head was like, Moose wears 13s. He's got clown feet. He needs to get Crocs.
And I put them on, and the first comment was they look like clown shoes from both you and me.
That's true.
Because they are, lavender clogs on my shoes. And no hate to Crocs, but they do look like clown shoes on me.
Yeah.
But I seriously think that, I haven't, for the first week that I owned them, I didn't take them off.
I was going to say, I don't see them on your feet right now, and that's probably the first time since I've lived here that I have seen you not wear them.
They are very comfortable. I really enjoy wearing them. They are, for sure, one of my favorite pairs of shoes that I currently own. So yeah, going back to you being kind of a connoisseur of fashion, I wanted to ask you about your taste buds, and why you have the worst opinion of Pop-Tarts that I've actually ever met in a person, and having brown sugar as your favorite. Because we talked about it last time, me and Keith brought that up, and I want you to defend yourself. I'm not going to just put you on blast. But yeah, I wanted to defend yourself.
I appreciate that. So it's a tie, it's strawberry and then it's brown sugar. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the mood that you're in. Because I feel like Pop-Tarts are one of those foods where different flavors can be appeasing to you at different times. So, for example, a Pop-Tart that you might have in the morning might not be the same kind that you taste in at midnight, you know, having a little midnight snack. You're like, ooh, just want to pop a tart in my mouth real quick.
Dry tart?
Just pop a dry tart.
Yeah.
Not a warmed up, not a gooey one. Just pop it in there real quick.
Yeah.
So I think it depends a lot on that. And I'll tell you, the strawberry ones are your morning ones. Those ones hit you nice. They get the flavor going in the morning. They get your lips all moist. You're just doing great things in the morning with the strawberries. And then people tell me, you don't warm up your Pop-Tarts? No, I don't warm up my Pop-Tarts. They're not warm tarts. They're not strudel. Okay? They're Pop-Tarts. You pop them, you tart them.
See, you are exclusively a raw tart guy.
100%.
And Keeve is exclusively a hot tart guy.
He's got hot tarts.
I range. That's the thing. I can go for a hot one or I can go for a raw one, but like I will take whichever for whatever. You can't do that. But I will take a Pop-Tart just depending on how I am feeling.
Just how raw you're feeling.
So yeah, my raw emotions, Andrew. My raw emotions.
Those are the best kind of emotions, they say.
They say.
Vulnerable, real,
Vulnerable.
raw.
Vulnerable, real Pop-Tart. Pop-Tarts. Sounds like
Isn't
a
that
Toyota
your
commercial.
Oh, like rock!
Real, vulnerable Pop-Tarts.
Chevy
Silverado. That's an inside joke that we need to talk about.
I don't think we do. I don't think we do.
We can dumb it down, but we don't need to like get super in depth to it. But
Yeah, everybody wants to grab the wheel, you know?
yeah,
That's what I'm
definitely.
saying.
Everybody wants to grab that wheel. But you were saying, you know, so I can assume that the brown sugar could be your night tart.
Yes, yeah, that's the midnight snacky. It's got that dessert kind of feel to it with the brown sugar.
Can I tell you what kind of feel it has for me?
Sandpaper.
Sand.
Yeah.
No, just sand.
Oh, just sand.
I feel like I'm eating a cup of sand whenever I have a brown sugar Pop-Tart.
Well, I think that you are naturally salty, so that might be why
That's fair.
it feels
Okay.
like it's sand.
Okay.
Because I think we actually, in your shower, I don't think regular water comes out. It's just salt water.
It's salt water.
Because it's you in the water, and you're salty.
Okay,
so,
okay.
yeah, we don't ever run out of salt here because we have moose. And
and here's the thing.
Keeve is pepper
And Keeve is pepper. I'll take it. But here's the thing,
and
man.
ranch.
I have
For sure.
nothing describes Keeve more as ranch.
Nothing describes Keeve Crosby more than anything in the entire world than Sriracha Ranch.
The Sriracha Ranch.
That's
true.
that-
That's really true. Because the first week it was like he was drinking it. Like it was like because we just had like pizza. Because I hadn't discovered like DoorDash or I wasn't in the mood to really cook. So like that first week was really just Sriracha Ranch for Kiva.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the most Keeve thing that I've ever experienced in my life. Shout out to Keeve Crosby.
Yeah. Who knows when he'll walk in.
Yeah.
Keeve isn't here, so randomly Keeve might be showing up.
Do they have other weird ranches like that? Like, I'm not a
Cranch.
ranch guy.
They have Cranch.
Is that like crayons in ranch?
No, it's ketchup and ranch.
Isn't that just like what Thousand Island is?
Right. Right.
I don't
know.
I'm not a sauce guy, you know. I like barbecue sauce. I'm natural Texan, you know. I'm actually not.
I don't
love
think
Texas.
you've ever lived in Texas.
Nope, but I've been to Texas, and I got a Texas shirt, and I love Texas. Shout out to Chino, he's from Texas.
Shout out to Chino.
Actually,
Chino
he's in
Bambino.
Texas.
My
Yeah.
homie. I love him.
Yeah, not a sauce guy, just love barbecue sauce. I'll put some ketchup on my burger, but that's kind of where it stops for me. Not a ranch guy, not a mustard guy. But love pickles, not a relish guy, you know? Like, people talk about, you know what's the most underrated food? Hot dogs. Hot dogs, man. I'll tell you what, growing up, nothing ever sounded better than just
A
going
street
to the
dog.
ball game,
Yeah.
Just having a dog with your dad, you
Yeah.
know, just watching a couple of greasy boys out there swinging the lumber, knocking homers, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa,
Hot
do all the
dogs.
roids you
Hot
can.
dogs here.
Yeah.
Hot dogs.
And there was the guy that was at the Suns games and the Diamondbacks games. He would say, "Lemonade, lemonade, just like Grandma made." He'd say it every single game. He did all of them.
I
Love
would-
that guy. That's my childhood.
So well, let's go back to your childhood, because the first thing when I hear of like hot dogs, just getting a hot dog, first thing I think of, funny enough, is New York.
The old conies.
Yeah, because a coney,
Let me get a coney. Hey, let me get a hot coney.
a coney on a street corner,
Let me get a street corner coney and
Like-
let me get one of them cannolis.
like a Queens or a Staten Island.
Staten Island. Let me get one of them conies.
So you were born in New York.
Yes.
How long did you live in New York?
You know, unfortunately, didn't live there very long. You know, I moved out here when I was very young, about 2 years old. So I did not, unfortunately, get the great New York accent. I do like to fake a good New York accent. You know, like, what are you talking about? Yeah, trying to have some coffee. What are you talking about? You know, talking like they Pete Davidson. That guy sucks. Yeah, that guy sucks. But, yeah, anyways, you know, you just get out here eating cannolis, eating a coney on Staten Island, hanging out with the boys, you know.
I don't know if I have to bleep that out.
Pete Davidson sucks?
I don't know if you might have used a filler word or two, but but still,
It's fine.
So
Anyways,
tell
so
two.
back to the story, yeah. So, moved out here when I was 2, because, New York's, it's expensive to live, you know, it's like California. All the Californians are moving out here now, you know, it's too expensive to live there. They're moving all out here. So, that's what happened. It was too expensive to live in New York. Family moved out here. Grew up out here in the desert. Love the Yankees, though, baby.
Yeah.
Love them Yanks.
And you, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know if this is true or not. I got that vibe. You had traveled to New York often for family, correct?
Correct, yeah. Lots of family vacations, Christmas trips were spent in New York. Long Island specifically.
Long Island.
Long
Okay, I didn't
Island.
know.
As my dad likes to call it, Strong Island. You know what I'm saying?
Strong
Island, baby. That's right. But not a big city guy. I was off Long Island, so a little kind of seasons and almost kind of like PNW weather would be to describe it as. But definitely get all the snow and everything like that. But seeing leaves changing, cool stuff like that, hanging out with the fam. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had mentioned it last episode that I'm the only one that doesn't have parents from a different state. Because your parents are from New York.
Correct.
Keem's parents are from
Canada.
Mom's from somewhere else. Dad's from Canada. So I thought that was interesting. That it was like, oh wow, I've never like traveled. The farthest I've traveled is Oklahoma. You've gone to New York. Keem has gone to Canada. So I think that should tell us that we need to travel as a little family. Us three. Take the podcast somewhere.
Take the pod on the road. I'm in favor of that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Road trip with the pod?
Road trip with the pod. So, going to New York as much as you did, what is probably your least favorite thing about traveling? Because, like I said, I don't travel a lot. When I do travel, it's usually alone. I took a couple flights out to Oklahoma alone, which I had a lot of fun because I lied to everybody that I talked to on the planes. Yeah, I'm 100% serious. Which I'd love to tell that story. But I do want to know, kind of specifically with you, what was your least or maybe like most favorite, you can pick either or, part of traveling?
Of traveling. You know, are you meaning the actual traveling itself or just in regards to going to another place that I'm unfamiliar with?
The middle. The middle.
middle.
So here's point A, Arizona, point B, wherever else you're going.
Gotcha. You know, probably the worst thing that ever happened to me is we were coming home from New York, heading back to Phoenix, and man, I don't remember how old I was. I was probably maybe like 11, maybe 12. I don't fully know. And we had a connecting flight, and for whatever reason, somehow, my ticket like didn't work, or like the seat that it was for me didn't work out. So I had to take a separate flight back to Phoenix without the fam.
That's wow.
At like a younger age. So I just remember being terrified.
Which is fair. I mean,
of being just like this small child in a big giant airport, like trying to figure out what the heck's going on.
No, most definitely.
But as I've gotten older, flight's not too bad. Don't think I could sit in a middle seat. I don't think I'm that kind of guy.
Not a middle seat guy.
Not a middle seat guy.
I'm a larger man, so I agree with that completely.
Like I gotta lean one way or the other, you know? If I'm trying to catch some Z's, like I'm either leaning on the window or I'm leaning like this out towards the aisle,
Definitely.
You know? Like I don't know how people do it, but it's not for me.
Yeah, I would say I'm a window guy. So how long was that flight? By yourself being younger, I can only imagine that's
flight back's usually, I think it's about 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours.
Yep, without my folks.
And was it a connecting flight, or was that?
That was the flight. I forgot where we were stopped, but that flight was the one heading back to Phoenix.
Okay, so that was like you took it somewhere, and then you went from there too.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, a 3.5 hour flight from New York to. You're nuts. Like I was like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure if I remember, I had my Walkman at the time.
Wow.
And
okay.
I'm pretty sure I had Beastie Boys going on in the earphones there.
Wow.
Yeah, those of you, Moose included, that were too young to know what Walkmans were.
I know what Walkman
they
is.
were portable CD players.
I want to just point out the fact that I know what a Walkman is. I'm not two.
You were probably 2 when they came out, so
that's fair. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, Walkman were what you used to listen to music before you could put music on your phone, and before computers were a thing. So, and if you don't know who the Beastie Boys are, then I don't ever want to talk to you.
Man, bro.
Yeah, I was one of the original members of the Beastie Boys. Actually, if you look me up, you'll be able to see I look just like MCA.
Dude, back in my day, we had Walkmans with Beastie Boys. I'm the only one laughing here. But okay, so being at that young age, had your Walkman, Beastie Boys, connecting flight. I mean, what? Your parents just waited for you at the gate, I'm assuming?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And that was. I can imagine that being a little traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with my worst experience, back in 2016, I was looking up the specific date on my phone for a picture. But yeah, 2016, I had a flight out to Florida. The flight there was awesome. That was a really fun trip. But the flight back, however, do you remember in 2016 when they had that flood in Texas that killed like 13 people?
Yes.
I believe. We landed the day before that happened in Texas. So they canceled all the flights, obviously, because like horrible storm.
Oh, yeah.
So what they did was they canceled all the flights, and then all of the hotels that we were able to get into for free with like an airplane voucher were all packed. So we left our gate, we hopped on, one of those little buses to go and get a hotel room, and they were all packed. So then we came back and they wouldn't let us by the gate of the plane that we would be taking off, or we were scheduled to take off in the morning. So we were just kind of stuck in the lobby. I slept in a wheelchair.
You do have experience with those.
Yes, wheelchairs, definitely. And that's why I did have the experience at camp.
Correct. Yeah.
But I slept in a wheelchair, which was the worst sleep I've gotten. I can hearken that to the worst sleep I've ever gotten in my entire life. I had like a Darth Vader's blanket covering my feet.
Nice.
And, my best buddy Nick, who I've known for years, I've talked with him on the phone like I've told you a lot about Nick. We went with him and his little brother, and then both of our moms. Nick also slept in a wheelchair. Chris slept under the like bench seats. Mom slept on top of them, and then my mom slept on top of another thing of bed and seats right next to me. So we wake up at like 6 o'clock. My mom wakes me up. It's already packed. Like, I don't know how I sleep through such a crazy amount of noise.
The noise of an airport.
Yeah. And it's already packed. We go, and we hop on a plane that's like, instead of 3 seat, it's 1 seats and 2 seats. Like, it's a small plane. And they put me in a 1 seat. But it's that awkward area between private or first and economy. So I have like this wall in front of me. So then I'm sitting because I have to kind of describe. I'm fetal position like this on a flight from Texas to another place in Texas because we couldn't get through. We go through to another place in Texas named Arcana, which
should have been called Arcanta.
Yeah, because it was a horrible time. We're there for like 8 hours at this terminal. Like, we go and get, I'm pretty sure, like Quiznos. Like,
That's still around.
Yeah, and I have a shirt, a long blue sleeve shirt that has Arcana, Texas. I love that shirt. But it was like a nightmare. We hop on another plane, we go to Arizona, and we're like, okay, cool, we just need to pick up our luggage. Our luggage was on the plane that was canceled for flight from Texas and then left that night when we went to like the hotels, like when we were sleeping on a wheelchair. That plane ended up leaving with our luggage to Arizona. So here we are, like on one side of the Arizona like airport, right? It's on the complete opposite side, just being held. So we have to rush over there, come back to the corner that we were in, and then drive home. Traffic was horrible. It was a nightmare. I hope I don't have another experience like that.
That's tough.
And then, like the next summers I'm flying by myself to Oklahoma. So it's just like, oh man, really hope I don't have an experience like that by myself again. Because I cannot imagine doing it by myself. It was a nightmare. But yeah, that would probably be my worst experience.
I just was reminded of I don't think I was old enough to really know kind of what happened, but I recall we were in a layover in Las Vegas, and I was fairly young. My older brother was also fairly young, and so we're in a layover. My brother and I are just sick as dogs in the airport, just yakking up vomit,
Lovely.
Juice everywhere.
Lovely.
So I just remember my mom's trying to take care of me and my brother, who were just yakking all over the place, and my dad's just sitting there. So if you haven't been to the Las Vegas airport, there are slot machines there that are in there. And I just remember my dad playing the Wheel of Fortune slot machine while me and my brother are just yakking it up.
Dying.
My mom's trying to take care of us. My dad's just sitting there smoking a cigarette, just playing the slots.
Nice. That's awesome.
I'll never forget that. I was like, thanks, Pops.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, Pops. Absolutely great.
Yeah. Having a smoke playing Wheel of Fortune. Absolutely
great. So, traveling and stuff like that. I want to take it back to the time that I lied to somebody on an airplane ride. I convinced him I was a nomad like I'd do small jobs, wherever I was, just to afford money to take a plane ticket somewhere else, and then go somewhere else. And I told her all of this stuff. I didn't do an accent, which is funny because sometimes I'll just talk to people in accents and give them a fake name. And there's the reason I do that is just because there's no harm in it. I think it's funny, and that person can go on thinking that there's this person out there whose name is
who's the worst,
Micah, who travels from Arizona to Maryland, just living their life. So yeah, that was kind of that specific situation. It was just this lady. I could tell that she was kind of a hippie. So we were sitting next to each other. There was no middle. There was just me on the outside, her on the inside, nobody in between us. And she was actually the one that struck up conversation. She was, I don't remember what it was, but she struck up conversation. We kind of went to talking. That she just asked about my life, and I was uncomfortable with telling her, all of my life. So I just kind of made stuff up as I went. But it was a really fun experience, fun chat. She was a great lady. Nothing super crazy about her, as a lot of people will experience really crazy people on flights. But yeah. So traveling, with traveling, you're gonna not only meet some weird people, but meet some really fun people, people that you end up, staying in contact with. That have you ever had someone that you had traveled with, and you managed to keep in contact with? Any friends that you could now say are like closer friends, or just friends in general that you didn't think that you'd connect with?
Through traveling, I would say no. Now, before I gained all of this COVID weight, I was quite the adventurer, hiker. Some may even use the phrase mountain man. And I had a couple of interesting encounters. So if you do hike, and do kind of difficult hikes of mountains, there's kind of this bond that you kind of form with other people that are trekking up to try to do summit bids. And a couple of different cool opportunities that I've had. Me and a couple of friends, we were hiking to the top of Mount Whitney, which is in California. Those of you that don't know, and it's one of the coolest things that I've ever gotten to kind of see. So as you're going up towards the top of Mount Whitney, basically Mount Whitney is the tallest point in the lower 48 states, and just a stone's throw away is Death Valley. So you can get to essentially this high point and have this low point so close. So there's a little river that was a frozen pond when we stayed at it, basically for the campground. But you could see Death Valley from there. And so the second day we're trekking up to get to kind of like our base camp before we summit bid, and we're heading up there, and there's a guy who's doing it by himself, and he's wearing these fancy La Sportiva boots. If you can know anything about hiking gear, like La Sportiva is grade A, consider like the Lamborghini of hiking boots and camping gear. Versace, if you will, very very high class, but very good gear. And he starts conversation with us, and we end up getting to base camp, and he's by himself, so he's got a one-person tent, and once you get to about 13,000 feet in elevation, I think we camped maybe between 12 and 13,000 feet in elevation, you lose trees. The tree line goes away, which stops wind. So essentially what you want to try to do at that high altitude is find any means of coverage that you can find, or the wind is just going to whip your tent all night and keep you up in regards to sound, but also freezing in regards to cold. So we found like this little crevice behind some big boulders So we set up our tent, and he set up his tent right next to us. But long story short, we went up to the summit together. Actually have some cool photos with him. His name was Dana. And we took some photos, and he told us he was a doctor from Beverly Hills. My buddy Josh sent him the photos via email that we had taken, and we kind of went back and forth with emails of just photos and everything like that, and just running into and encountering different people like that, and just sharing the mountain kind of experience is something that I've had the privilege of doing. I feel like I'm talking a lot here, but another similar story I had was just last summer when we tried to summit Mount Rainier in Washington. Long story short, we get to the top of, basically where we set up camp, which was John Muir, which is just the first base camp before you go to the top. And we kind of called it after one day, just in regards to no paths had been set to the top. There was already search and rescue looking for a couple of skiers when we started going up. And a couple of us were dealing with some altitude sickness issues as well. So we were kind of happy with where we had gotten, and we were just going to come down. So up to where we camped, stayed there the night, and then just back down the next day. And as we're going down, let me rephrase that. So late in the night, so you want to set up obviously camp before night comes, because it makes everything a lot easier. So we're all set up, getting ready to go to sleep, and we see this just young girl by herself get to the camp, and there's a ranger who stays in like this stone hut there, and there's some stone huts that are like the bathrooms and whatnot, and there's one that's like a little room as well. And all she has is a little one-person tent for the night. And she was probably this 4'5" Asian American girl, just little tiny petite thing.
Yeah.
And luckily the ranger let her stay in one of the huts, so she didn't die from the wind and the cold, because it was a cold night.
Yeah, you guys are pretty far up at that point.
Yeah.
So that's crazy, and I can only imagine already that's super nerve-wracking. Like, you're going up, like, there's a possibility that 2 people are dead up there. Like, that with the search and rescue, they're looking for them. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I can't imagine that's any less stressful. Oh, hey, there's this random girl. All she has is a single person tent, and if she just goes about it her way, she'll probably, like, freeze to death out here. Like, that's kind of insane.
Yeah. Shout out to that girl. Like, that takes balls, as they say, to do that.
Yeah.
So we saw her the next morning as we were starting to trek down. But yeah, kind of backtracking. Talking about kind of like scary things, is I remember as we were going up. So as you're going up kind of the side of the mountain, you can see the peak. And I just remember hearing this loud crack, and you can see avalanches that are just happening off the top of the mountain.
Oh my god!
And just the sound that it makes, this reverbed off of the walls,
it sounds like
and just
boring,
seeing
right?
it tumbling. Yeah, just out of this world. But we started heading down, and she was kind of a little bit farther behind us, but going down is just as sketch as going up.
Mm-hmm.
So when we camped, we were above the clouds, and so as you're going down, you're going into the clouds. So visibility becomes kind of difficult from being up that high. And in different parts of the mountain, if you steer off, it's a ledge. End of story. Kind of both ways going back down. So there's a little like rock ridge that's kind of central that us as a group, we were like, stay close to the ridge.
Yeah.
We know kind of from coming up, that's where we came up. And learned actually that what happens is a lot of people come up, they go up, they do like a day trip, they'll have skis on the back of their packs, or they walk up in skis. They'll get as high as they can or high as they want to, and then they just ski down in regards to just going down fast.
Psycho. That's
So-
seriously crazy.
That was, we later on found out that that's what was, search and rescue was looking for a couple of skiers. So as we're going down, and I had a couple of sick photos, just with the low visibility of us. We exchanged emails again with this girl, and she was just this. I think she said she was a med school student from Florida State, who just like grew up in this area and was in town visiting family on like spring break or something like that. And she's like, "Yeah, I just decided to come up here," and I was just like, props to you, girl. Like,
Yeah.
20-something-year-old girl, single, just up here, tackling this mega mountain.
Tackling one of the U.S.'s biggest.
The biggest volcano that is in America.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that thing will eventually blow, which is terrifying because when it does, it's going to probably hit Seattle.
Yeah, that's like a world-changing event.
It's an active
It's,
volcano.
yeah, it's right behind, like, I can only imagine Yellowstone when it comes to, like, just devastating crazy. No, that's kind of scary. Like, that's, and we talked about it last episode, me and Keeve, of, like, just how much of, like, I'm really not, like, a daring guy. Like, anything regarding balance or, taking those kind of risks. Like, I would love to swim with sharks one day. Like, I think that would be awesome. But I will never skydive. I will never go skiing down a mountain. And I will never drop in on a skateboard. Like, I can go from swimming with sharks to confidently saying those three things. I don't think I'll ever do. Not because, like, it's this, that, or the other. Strictly because it scares me. And I think some specific things that, like, are scary to people, like, leave those lasting impressions that you're just like, I don't want to do it. Like, I've fallen on my face too much, like, and I'm fine from skiing and skateboarding too. And it's just like, you know what? Like, I can go my life without doing that and I'll be okay. Skydiving, I already have a fear of heights. Like, and being a 6'3" dude, it's kind of ironic, but, like, I don't like heights. I'm just not a heights guy. And I think those scary moments, like fear and stuff like that, those are kind of the moments that we look on and are like, whoa, that's kind of like crazy to look back on. With that avalanche, I can only imagine that was like a very specific scary moment. Is there any other scary moments that you can kind of relay back to that you just kind of have those moments where you're like, oh man, I can only imagine being in that. Or I can only imagine, like looking back on it, it's like, I wouldn't know the lasting impression that this probably would have.
So, it goes back to that Mount Whitney trip. So, in order to try to summit it during a particular time of the year, you have to have a pass. You have to be like drawn into and get a pass in order to hike it.
Like a hunting tag.
Kind of, pretty much, yeah. And we went like the weekend before you had to have it. So we were good, and it was not like super ideal, but it was pretty much ideal, the conditions. And so, if you research this, so from the last campsite up to the summit, you have to go up what's called a snow chute, which essentially is just a wall of snow that you go up straight up, essentially. And the way that you do it is you zigzag. So you zigzag up it. At the time, obviously with snow, and this was my first snow hike as well. So it was my first introduction to crampons, which essentially are metal spikes that you put on the bottom of your boots so that you're stabilized as you go up or
And
through
what was
snow.
the name of those again?
Crampons.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, you would have a hiking pole in one hand, so you're zigzagging up this massive snow chute, and you're doing one step at a time. One step, trekking pole into the snow, making sure you're stable, then taking your next step. So it's slow and steady.
And you might win the race.
And you zigzag all the way up this.
Oh.
So then you complete that, and you get to the ridge where it balances out, and then you almost go up the ridge, down the ridge, up the backside to get to the summit. And I actually did not make it to the summit. I was probably about 30 minutes away. But like I said, it was my first snow hike, and I was getting really bad altitude sickness, where I was just nauseous and just queasy and just like felt like I was just completely drained. And so I just laid on a rock, and was just like, "This is it. Like, leave me here." And my friend and Dana, who we had ran into, they both went to the top and then came back down and got me. But the scary part, so I talk about the snow chute and zigzagging up and down. So I'm dealing with altitude sickness, not doing great mentally and like exhausted. So then I looked to my friend Josh and I said, "Josh, how are we getting down? We got to get down to camp. Like what?"
Yeah.
Didn't think about that until I got up to that point. But same with me. I hate heights. I don't do heights. And so I asked Josh that question, and he goes, "Well, there's two ways we can do this. First way is you do exactly what we did to get up here, but you do it going down. You zigzag, it's slow, and it's going to take you a while to get back down. Or you do this thing called glissading." I said, "What the heck is glissading, Josh?" And he says, "Well, basically you just slide on your butt until you catch yourself going too fast, and you slam your ice axe into the mountain to stop your momentum."
That's insane.
So that's what I did. And I'll never forget my friend Josh went first, and he's sliding down, and I see him just biff it, take a massive tumble. He's just spiraling like in all the cartoons when a snowball just starts getting bigger and bigger as it goes down the mountain. That was him. He was just mumbling, fumbling, and tumbling down the mountain, and I'm just watching this happen like, holy smokes! And so it's my turn. So I start going. I'm like trying to ease it. So you stick your ice axe behind you, almost like a rudder, for like a boat to help you kind of steer. And then once you need to stop, you just basically turn and just put all your body weight on it and just hold on to it.
Yeah.
So I was going, just felt like I was a cheetah going down the mountain so fast. And then I was going way too fast. I was getting the wiggles. And so I went to go turn and slam my ice axe into the mountain. And I do that, and it slips right off my wrist. The ice axe, when I slam it in, just right off my wrist. So I'm just falling down the mountain at this point.
What?
And luckily, there's this big giant rock that I just fall on, essentially.
You hate that.
Like into.
Yeah. You hate the luckily part is that there's a boulder in your way when you're going fast. Luckily, there was an object that I hit going really fast.
Yeah.
That is so insane.
Which caught me, so then I landed on the rock with my ice axe 15 feet vertical into the mountain still. So then I try to trek up, hands and knees, to go grab it, so that I can finish glissading all the way down. And that was the most exhausted I've ever been in my life, and probably the closest I've ever been to death.
That is insane. Yeah.
If you want to look up some fun videos, just look up glissading.
Yeah. No, I can't imagine. I'm not gonna, because that's just like a worse fear of mine.
It's like sledding without a sled. It's just nuts. Your body.
That's nuts, dude. That's insane. I can't imagine just, my history with hiking in general. I'm not a hiker. I've never wanted. I was in good shape once to do a hike, which it was a trip down
Memory lane.
memory lane. I don't know what the actual like name of the trail is, but us in Camp Verde we called it just the crack. Strictly because you're walking down this ravine and you end up just following the river over to like this large swimming area that a lot of people go to. It's near the Sedona area. It's a great place for hiking. Every single time that I've gone recently, I've just died and I've been just exhausted, and the people I go with, I hate doing that to them, you know, because it's like, man, I'm not in shape for this. You guys have to wait for me. I'm literally like almost dying of heat exhaustion, and I never swim. That's the thing. I never go swimming in the swimming hole, so I'm just uncomfortable the whole time. So, and that's dumb of me. I'll admit it. That was very stupid of me, not going swimming to cool off my body and then dying of heat stroke on the way out. But I think yeah, hiking has never been my strong suit. Gone on a few hikes when I was in a little bit better shape, but going back to kind of those scary specific stories, you said it was glacing?
Glissading. Yeah.
That is terrifying to me. The thought of how little control you have in that specific situation.
But it's the quickest way to get to the bottom. Get back to camp.
Still though, like
so you gotta weigh the risks.
I would be the guy that'd be like, all right, you're gonna wait an hour because I'm not doing that. That's just insane.
Oh, it was gonna be more than an hour. It'd
Really?
probably be like 3.
3 hours for that slow trek?
3 hours slow trek.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was
man.
that steep. I'll have to show you a photo of it after this, but you can see. So we took some photos as we were going up it. My friend took some photos, and we took some once we got to the ridge, and you can see like little ants. They look like at the bottom, which are people that are on the way up, and then you can look and see like how small you are on the chute itself.
Part of me wants to like commit to saying like, oh, I want to do something like that at least at one point in my life, but I know that I would just be so petrified. It'd be so hard to do. So I knew you were a hike guy. I was told about your Whitney, right? Your Whitney experience, right? Isn't that what the mountain's called?
Which one?
The summer.
The summer was Rainier in Washington.
Rainier.
Yeah,
Rainier.
the volcano.
I said Whitney.
That's the one in California. That's the other one I was talking about.
So yeah, you told me about Rainier, which I was like, that seems crazy cool, and you showed me pictures and everything like that, and I told you, I was like, yeah, that mortifies me, like just the thought of heights and going up that crazy amount of time. The closest thing that I'd be able to like kind of relate to hiking in that like aspect, I guess, would be hunting, just because there is a lot of hiking that we need to do for hunting and stuff like that. But that's like so vanilla when it comes to like the physical exertion that does. I would say the track out maybe could be related to it because you're like carrying not only all the stuff you needed to for hunting, but also, if you're lucky, a dead body. Like
yeah.
But that's that hiking to me, especially with like one of those places, it's just so out of this world. So yeah, hiking guy. What would you say is something on your bucket list specifically, whether it involves hiking or it's something else that's kind of daring? What would you kind of relate that experience to? Something that you want to do that you know would be like this crazy thing. It's right now it's far out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, I don't know necessarily if it's off the far realm. I'm pretty confident that I would never do Everest. So a really cool thing is going on actually right now. Those of you might know who Mike Posner is. He wrote that famous song, I Took a Pill in Ibiza. And he actually was a musical artist when I was growing up, when he was a college student at Duke. That's how I kind of got to know about him and his music. He is currently hiking Mount Everest with this extraordinary hiker. I forget his name. I can't think of his name right now. They're actually documenting it on Instagram. But I don't think I would ever do Everest. Just in regards to just hearing and watching a lot of films and documentaries on it, as well as the trek in the financial cost that it is to try to get to such a remote place is astronomical. But I think something that I would enjoy doing, and I've talked a little bit with a couple of my friends, because my friend Josh, who I've done a lot of hikes with, is a big South America guy. He's been down to South America a bunch of times. Been to Chile, Patagonia, down there, Argentina, and he speaks fluent Spanish as well. He's this corn-fed dairy farmer from St. Cloud, Minnesota, and he speaks fluent Spanish. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But I've always we've talked about Machu Picchu in Peru.
That'd be so cool.
Which would be, I think, one of the coolest things for me in like bucket list hikes. And there's also there's a hike in Hawaii, and the thing with Hawaii is that it's so expensive to get there, but I believe this hike is, I don't know if it's like forbidden or like the locals don't like you to do it. I believe it's called Stairway to Heaven. I'm Googling it right now, to be honest with you. So it's a real steep, it's almost 4,000 steps. I've seen just a bunch of photos. So like, I'm just going to show Morgan a photo of it. That's the Stairway to Heaven in Hawaii. So that would be like another
kind of
like bucket list hike, if you will.
That's crazy. I don't know if it's like, if it is one of those, whoa, let me see that picture. Is that real? You think it's...
Yeah.
To the point where you can see the curvature of the earth? I mean, like, I'm seeing like these pictures and it just looks like it's like a mountain trek. But like the curvature of the earth high?
Yeah, let's see.
That's nuts.
So I don't know what elevation Hawaii starts at, but I can't imagine it's very high since it's an island. But the top of that is about 2,500 in elevation.
Wow. That's nuts. And it looks like it wouldn't be the kind of like insane trek with like snow gear and stuff like that. Like there's steps, there's handrails, like, which I can only imagine the process of getting handrails up that mountain. But no, that's a really cool thing. I think Machu Picchu would be really cool. Because that's a journey. There's this book that I read. It couldn't have been, I think it was in high school. And it was talking about the guy who went on to rediscover Machu Picchu. And he went out and he couldn't find it. Like, he just straight up couldn't find it. And it took, like, some random kid dragging him through nettled branches. And he got kind of like this top-down view of it. And then, a week passes and he makes it there. And he's blown away. And I think that's so crazy to think about, because it's like one of those remote places. It's so remote that like the person rediscovering it, like, genuinely couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And I mean, now we have, GPS. Like, let's look at it from a satellite. But I still think that would be so nuts to do. Especially like such a remote place. Like Mount Everest is remote because it's so high. There's oxygen like not present at the peak.
Yeah, you're basically your brain stops functioning at a certain altitude, and so basically you start going brain dead, essentially, because of how thin the air is.
Yeah.
And
That's like, I don't remember, but someone medically speaking was like, that's like if you were only breathing out of like an aerosol can. Like that's so insane.
yeah, and another thing that I've read and kind of seen from like documentaries and things like that is, so Everest is Everest. You know, it's the peak of the hiking realm, if you will. And what happens sometimes is the weather obviously is a giant key in regards to having success in actually summiting. So sometimes, because obviously you have to trek up multiple days and even weeks, like to get to where you have an opportunity to go to the summit. And so what will happen sometimes is there'll be a log jam of people that are trying to go to the top, whether it's because of weather or not, and then they basically have to make a decision if they're going to try to go or they're going to go back down. And then if people aren't going at a fast enough speed, they actually get clogged and like people die due to basically a traffic jam on a mountain with no altitude and terrible temperatures.
And people who die up there, their bodies are stuck.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is so crazy, because I remember at one point I was just like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that like all of these bodies are just up there? And I looked up, and there are so many bodies on Mount Everest, and they're well preserved because of like the natural, because of like nature. There's not necessarily like rain. There's not acidity. There's not going to be any decay because there's not anything up there to decay your body.
Yeah.
So you're looking at just bodies that are basically put on a freezer, and they're just stuck there. And you don't. And a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just put them on something and shove them down? It's like their bodies would break. They would shatter because they've turned into like this brittle glass. That is so incredibly morbid to me, but yet so interesting, because it's like people are dying up there because they want to get a selfie in, and if that's not the case, then like people are dying up there because they just did something wrong. That's so insane to me.
And I mean, I'd say it's not even sometimes that people do things wrong. That weather is just. Sometimes it's just so unpredictable and so gnarly, and like even people with like the most training and everything like that can run into issues there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Everest that came out. I highly suggest it, but it just kind of shows you a little bit of a glimpse into that. But yeah, just incredible that mountain is. Yeah.
Yeah, that is, yeah, because I can only imagine, like, there's obviously the thrill seekers who are like, yeah, I'm going to do this because it's, you know, it's the peak. I'll be the highest person ever. Like, that's crazy to me. I just, yeah, that seems like so much for, you know, people who are into hiking like you. And I just, yeah. Because, like, the appeal of it to me, like, that would be something I could wear under my belt. But it doesn't, like, I don't know. It just, the risk seems a lot more than the takeaway. And real quick, what is your opinion kind of on those moments that a lot of people see throughout their life of, like, I'm going to go all in with it. And the takeaway ends up being a lot less than what you sacrificed to get to that point. I don't know if you have a specific situation where you were kind of put into that position, because I know, you know, my own specific, currently kind of with what I'm going through, you know, put all my chips down, and then all of that kind of got wiped off the board all of a sudden, and I couldn't control any of it. What is, if you have a specific situation like that, would you mind kind of sharing that?
I can say, like with hikes, and like I said, didn't summit Whitney, and then we didn't summit Rainier. So technically, those would be viewed as like not accomplished.
Air quotes.
And obviously, just being more disappointed in the Whitney than the Rainier one, just due to personal exhaustion and like almost kind of letting myself down. But then just realizing like and seeing the views of like how small humans really are in the grand scheme of things, and just like I'll never forget being on the top of that ridge looking on the backside of the of Yosemite, and just seeing all of these snow-covered mountains and just going off both directions into the wilderness of just like there's so much to be explored, and just realizing how small we are in comparison. And same thing with Rainier. It's just like one of the coolest things about that is once you get to a certain point on Rainier, you look to your left and you can see Mount Hood. Mount Hood is in Portland, Oregon. And you're able to be where you're at in Washington State on an active volcano that has snow on it 365 days a year. Turn to your left and see a mountaintop that is
a state away. That is insane.
And just being like, holy smokes. Like,
yeah.
Just, it kind of puts things in perspective. And I think it's something that honestly, like, is part of the reason I think that I do it. Because I mean, there's been hikes where I've pushed my heights limit. So if you've never been to Zion National Park in Utah, I highly recommend it. It's probably my favorite national park that I've been to. There's just so many different things you can do, different hikes.
Isn't that where Angel's Bridge is?
Angel's Landing.
Angel's Landing.
What it's called.
I've been there. Beautiful place. The first camp that I ever worked at, that was our summer trip. Other places other groups had went to Disneyland and stuff. We went there. And I would say that's when I was in a little bit better shape. That was when I had my one famed pro wrestling match. That's when I had, I hiked on a daily basis because of like the area that we were at. That was a really fun trip. So definitely, I can agree 110%.
Did you go to the top of Angel's Landing?
No. We went through that area. It's like a river.
The Narrows.
The Narrows. We went through there on a day that it was raining, which was like incredibly dangerous.
No, 100%.
100%.
The worst.
And as soon as it started raining, we started backing out. But we went in there, and then we also did a hike. I'm unsure exactly which hike it was.
Emerald Pools?
I'm unsure because I just couldn't remember the name. It was me, a few of the other guys. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, that place is beautiful. So definitely, I would suggest that place.
Yeah, Utah. So
Beautiful.
Being a southwestern guy here, Utah is one of my favorite places, and honestly, like you said, one of the most beautiful places that you can be at. Their national parks are great.
Shout out to Utah.
Yeah. I say Utah, but so Bryce Canyon is in Utah. Bryce Canyon is another beautiful national park. But Zion is actually not in Utah. Wait, yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. Sorry. Yes, but Bryce Canyon is another one in Utah. But Utah has a bunch of basically BLM land, which is owned by the government, which is basically just land where you can camp wherever you want. So it's just fascinating that you can just go there and camp wherever you want. So we would just do that when we did a bunch of trips. But done Angel's Landing twice. And let's see, in 17 and 16. And the crazy thing, and like I said, in regards to kind of putting my fear of heights to the limit,
because that's a place that's high up there.
So basically, you start the climb up, and then you'll get to a point where it kind of evens
Yeah.
out. And then from there is basically essentially a one-way street each direction, one going up and one going down, with the only thing keeping you from 1,000-foot drop on each side is a little chain link fence, if you will,
Dude.
guardrail.
Oh my
is
God.
the only thing to hold on to as you go all the way to the top.
Dude, that's so... Oh, man.
So I'm showing Moose here a great terrified photo of myself back in 17.
Oh, I love that, man. You can see the white of your eyes from this
because,
distance away.
I had, on that trip, I had a friend who was just antagonizing my fear of heights the entire time that I was going through it, which is always so great. But yeah, just you get to kind of learn more about yourself. And I've had similar talks with a couple of my friends who I've been on these trips with. It just allows you to kind of not fully know your limits, but like know where you can push yourself.
Yeah.
And like, cause you really don't know how far you can push yourself until you put yourself in a situation like that.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's an uncomfortable situation or it's a physically exerting situation or what it is.
Yeah.
And just to be able to like see how your body reacts and how your mind reacts and like just start to learn more about yourself in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I say this, and you can testify to that. But you can testify to this. Something that I kind of say often is find comfort in the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's probably a famous quote from somebody, but I kind
Paul
of
Bunyan, I think.
Paul Bunyan, definitely the
Blue Ox.
The Blue Ox. Yeah, I was about to say. But I think that kind of that specifically stands for a lot of things that we go through in life, whether it be socially, emotionally, romantically, physically, as you had previously put, with those specific situations. It's like you only are really going to be able to do it once. Like, do it. And knowing those limits is definitely good. Don't push yourself past those limits.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, you can't turn back because you've went past that point. But yeah, definitely. And I I've seen Angels Landing. Like, that's insane. That was one of those moments where I just looked straight up. And I'm like, whoa, and I like threw up on the ground. Beautiful area though, with that Utah trip that I went on, and I can only imagine that you had like quite a few moments where it's like, this is beautiful. But yeah, fear in knowing those limits and finding comfort in them are definitely like big things that you gotta do.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm gonna pull up your text exactly here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. And this will probably be the section that we ended on, but it's okay to not be okay. And that's kind of my message that I wanted to take a second on, actually, if you don't mind, with the ending of this podcast. It's okay not to be okay. And lately, it's just been a real tough time. Not only with just kind of circumstances popping up specifically recently, but just in generally a few things that I'm going through. So I kind of just want to preach that message out and say it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And, take time. Grieving is grieving. So definitely. And I'm happy we kind of talked about specifically like those feelings, because those specific feelings with fear and uncomfort and all of that, you can put that in, kind of encapsulate them in different aspects of your life, whether it's, like we had stated, emotionally, physically, mentally. So definitely happy that we kind of talked about that. Happy that we also talked about how you like eating sand in the form of a brown sugar Pop-Tart.
Brown sugar, baby. Love me some brown sugar.
But yeah, this was. I remember at the beginning we were like, "Don't expect to get a serious podcast out of me."
That's true.
And we
Yeah.
talked about some like seriously heavy stuff,
Yeah.
mainly hiking. That's what this one
I
is
was
going to be.
gonna say,
The hiking
this
podcast.
was a lot about trips and dips and
But that's fun. And I mean,
yeah.
it's not like this is going to be the only podcast that you're on, but no, super awesome talking to you, Sleepy Boy, our resident sleep.
Mr. Naps, aka Naps.
Mr. Naps, Gramps Naps.
Just Naps.
But yeah, totally super excited to kind of talk more. But yeah, I'm gonna DoorDash some late night munches. So actually, no, we have ice cream in the freezer, so I'm good. But perfect, yeah. Thank you again. Make sure to check out Keen.Crosby merch. See if there is still any merch, or if we have. Who knows? Who knows what we're doing? I don't. Definitely. It's more so of a toss-up idea. Hey, if we're doing it, we're doing it. We're all just kind of living by floating.
Yeah.
Excited for the next one. Hopefully we can have both Andrew and Kevon. That would be fun. But yeah, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember the 3 rules: live, laugh, and love. Thank you for tuning into the unofficial Icebox podcast.